Alrighty, COVID-19 pandemic chronology video for Thursday, 1 of December 2022. Happy December. And here comes 2023. Pandemic update for the day. So this is day 4 of a 14-day streak, day 7 overall of a 2 to 3 week pandemic weight regulation plan. And it's a 14-day streak minimum on the Tanis diet with PMS modifications. And I did achieve it yesterday, like my food and exercise. And I had a big dinner, so I don't get an evening snack today, so it's gonna be a long evening. So I'm at calories and I'm at exercise for the day. I have food for the day. And so that is my check-in for that. The other update is it's COVID-19 pandemic related in that it's changed a little bit, the dynamic between my parents. So I guess one of the questions, my mom's parents are divorced and my mom's brother is divorced. And my mom was engaged to another man before she married my dad. And so one of the things growing up was there was a friend on my soccer team, Trish Ness, who her parents went through a divorce when we were playing soccer together. And so one of her ways of working through her parents getting divorced was playing on the soccer team. And it was pretty on the early end. And like she was pretty young. Like as we got older, more people's parents got divorced. And there were have been two universal critiques of divorce but by the people I've known of who've gone through it, especially when they were growing up, so in their developmental years, and they were universally, it was one, it would suck if this had happened as an adult. However, at the same point, I wish it had happened younger. So that was a universal, was couldn't have this happened younger, because if it had happened younger, they could have adjusted earlier and it wouldn't have been such a problem. Like it was like, it's not like they were grown-ups and had just, had their first kid and then the parents get divorced and that way they wanted to raise the child, right? They're an adult with parents that get divorced, and then all of a sudden Christmases that were just going to be, all right, 2 sets of grandparents are now 3 sets of grandparents and that kind of thing. So they were fortunate that they weren't the adult case, because that was kind of identified by them as like that would be like a worst case scenario with parents getting divorced. So the universal critique number 1 was they wish it had happened younger, because they could have adjusted younger and kind of planned their life accordingly. 1, 2, and I don't know if it's true. I guess that's not something I really talked to my mom about or my uncle about, is to see if it's the same, because they went through their parents getting divorced when they were adults. But from the youth perspective, was the second one was they wish it had gone faster. Like it was like, are the parents trying to torture them by drawing out as long as they can? Yeah, so that was the kind of thing. 1, they wish it had happened earlier, so they could have adjusted and kind of moved on earlier, and then they wish it had happened faster, right? So they can adjust as early and as fast as possible, right? That was kind of the 2 universals. So in that sense, it's a little bit like, I guess, rape. So I was 19 years old when I was raped. If I had been raped when I was 10 years old, it would have been a very less problems. I was menstruating. There was the potential of getting pregnant. I have soulmates. Like that's not something we want even. Like so but then also if somebody somebody could be really young and not menstruating, and somebody could be really old and not menstruating. And I was by no means a worst case scenario for a rape victim. I personally would kind of view that as the person who has a family, a husband, or like from the female perspective, a person who's still menstruating, has a husband, has kids, and then gets raped and gets pregnant, right? That is like like the worst horror situation kind of like possible, I feel anyway. And I was very fortunate that was not my case. But they're both similar in that sense. It's anatomically, women who are menstruating and get raped have far more problems. They have all of the problems of getting raped that the young ones do, plus additional this could forever change the course of their life, right? Just because of the pregnancy or possibility of pregnancy angle. So divorce and rapes specifically are two well accepted in my experience. Those kind of universally accepted as those are cases where there's like the worst case is actually like not when somebody's really young and not when somebody's really old, but like kind of like I guess it'd be like teenage to like through raising one's kids and getting them out of the house. That's kind of like, so like maybe like, I don't know, that would be teenage years through like maybe 60, or depending on how old people are when they have kids, kind of thing, or 55 maybe. So that's their unique like victims in that sense. And so this is explaining kind of my understanding of two things, because I've been through it. My parents have not been divorced, but it does come up. And my sister growing up, like my parents do fight, and then my sister kind of growing up dealt with the fighting by kind of being like, maybe they'll just get divorced and we can get past this. And for her it was kind of, and we talked about it a little bit, and it was kind of, if they did get divorced, there's a bit of, instead of interacting with mom and dad, it might be interacting with mom and her brother, or dad and his sister, because they each only have one sibling. And so Lindsay really loves Uncle Gordy, and I really love Aunt Danette. And there was so a kind of natural pairing where I think if it were just to be determined by like that kind of dynamic, I could see Lindsay kind of like choosing mom and me choosing dad. The dynamic has changed during the pandemic so it used to be kind of fighting both ways. Now it's more mom kind of attacking my dad and all of his family, including me. Like that happened at Thanksgiving, and it was kind of, she just went after one after another of us, including my Grandma Connie's friends, so my dad's mom's friends. And I was kind of like, whoo, flare up at a holiday event. And it kind of started when my mom and dad got their vaccinations for the COVID-19 pandemic. So for COVID-19. And so I don't know if there's some hidden information there that I'm just not privy to, that has kind of caused, they always kind of fought both ways growing up. So this is in that sense, like a huge change after, 28 years, 27 years or something like that of my lifetime, them fighting each other, my mom being the one kind of attacking, has made it a very one-sided dynamic. So I could see where in the past it might have been like one-sided, like my mom divorcing my dad and then them getting separated. I could see it potentially, if this COVID-19 pandemic behavior is any indicator, my mom divorcing my dad and then kind of attacking him and his whole family, in which case, like if it snowballed, I could potentially see something like my dad moving to Minnesota with Kimber and Nancy, and then if my mom is attacking like the rest of my dad's family, Kona might go with dad and Kona might go to Minnesota, Danette might end up in Minnesota, Grandma Connie might end up in Minnesota, and if it was really bizarre, Danette with her Pekingese, if it was really bizarre, I could even see like my mom's mom, so my Grandma Rosemary, ending up in Minnesota. Possibly even if my mom was really attacking people enough, and she might even go after like my godparents, so Suzette and John Tanner might end up in Minnesota as well. And for all we know, we get a mass exodus of people out of Innisarden to Minnesota, and they started a new Innisarden colony. I don't know. That's it. Okay, and I'm saying this is bizarre because I have experienced bizarre conditions in my life. So I'm not saying it will happen. Or I'm just saying I could see something like that happening. I could see me and Kyle living in Russia. We're training together. I'm the coach. We're training together and both running the 1 mile run, and us visiting Minnesota. Russia and Minnesota have a closer climate match than Russia and Seattle. Snow is the main difference there. Lots of snow. So I don't know. There has been a flare-up, though, during the COVID-19 pandemic. That it is exactly correlated with COVID-19 vaccines. And, yeah. So, I think it's part of a story that has not played out yet. So that's my 2 cents on that. Happy day.